Hey everyone, welcome back to the Dairy Raid, and another walk and talk, an impromptu one that I'm going to be recording, and I'm putting myself on a timer here. And the time it takes me to walk back from practice tonight to home, about 10 minutes. We're going to keep this short and sweet. And the idea behind this one came from an article I saw earlier tonight, written by one of John McNamara's colleagues at Rivals, talking about how, to put it in a summarize, that Wisconsin should go back to the old way of how they did it. The power run game with underrated linemen and a big running back from the East Coast, yada, yada, yada. Which is fine. A lot of people have been saying that. It's not going to happen. We're not going back to dinosaur football because I don't want to be the next Iowa. Anyways, but what got me to want to record this and talk is a comment that I hear too often, and that is just categorically wrong. And that is comparing Wisconsin's transition from the pro style to the air raid to Nebraska's transition from the power option, triple option offense to the West Coast offense. Okay? So, if you want to make that comparison, what you are saying is Wisconsin was incapable of developing offensive linemen who could pass block, that weren't taught to pass block, and we have a quarterback in the quarterbacks who could barely complete a forward pass. Because that's what Bill Callahan had when he made the mistake of trying to transition Nebraska from the power spread, not the power spread, the power option, I formation, triple option, to the West Coast offense. They were going from as far apart as they could be because one-dimensional option offenses take one huge component out of the game. So that was a very tough transition and not a smart one to go that far. What maybe it would have been a better transition is in 2003-4 to take Wisconsin's offense that they ran back then and transition away from the option to ISO, inside zone, power scheme, play action in year one, and then keep transitioning. You have the power run game, and you start, as you get the players in the system, to have a modern passing game. Back then, you could run West Coast offense out of I formation. Everyone did it. It was fine. He decided he wanted to go off the deep end. He had a quarterback who could barely complete a forward pass. They get 19 interceptions, and that's why that failed. Wisconsin is moving from a run game that ran power and inside zone, outside zone, stretch, quick passing game, mesh, stick, verts, to an offense that runs power, inside zone, outside zone, stretch, quick pass, mesh, stick, verts. The big difference is there's no fullback, because we call them H-backs in modern football, and it's in shotgun because the footwork is easier in shotgun. If you don't think so, go watch somebody trying to do a 7-step drop under center these days. God, it's ugly. The transition in terms of offensive plays is not as diametrically opposed as going from the power option to the West Coast offense. Where Wisconsin failed these last 2 years, and I'll admit it, offensive coordinator couldn't call the right plays, and the offensive players sucked. But it's not like you're asking Braden Locke to run the flex bone. It's not like you're asking Darian Dupree to line up at B-back and run dives all day. You're asking the Badgers players to do something that they probably did in high school. Some of them did in college, other places, and just doing it again. It's been a tough transition, but it's not the diametrically opposed transition of going from a offense focused on one type, just one aspect of the game, one-dimensional, as going from a run-heavy. I think Frank Solich's last year at Nebraska, they ran 14 passes a game, and I guarantee every single one of them was play action. So it's silly, and we need to stop. Okay, Wisconsin is not Nebraska. So what we need to do in year 2 is find an offensive coordinator that can make a game plan and can coach these kids up. And we need a head coach, obviously, who's going to let them do that. So that's that. Stop comparing Wisconsin to Nebraska. Okay? Then, I made my post talking about that I was going to talk about this. And of course, we got comments underneath asking questions, because that's what I usually do with these kind of walk and talks, and that's great. And got a string of comments from known follower of the channel, the Chicago Badger. And the gist of everything is when has an air raid offense, an air raid team won a national championship, and why haven't they? So there he basically answered his question. I incorrectly said Mike Leach won one at Oklahoma. He did not. He was gone by that point. But what I'll say is air raid passing concepts are run by many teams. The run game that Wisconsin used this year is used by almost every spread offense. RPOs, even Nick Saban, who lobbied to have the rules changed to outlaw RPOs because it was too hard on defensive coaches, submitted to running RPOs and package plays when Lane Kiffin got there, and they continue to run it to this day. But why, with all these big name air raid coaches, why haven't they won a national championship? Well, to me, that's simple. And it's the part that everyone's overlooking. Like, if you look at Lincoln Riley, I think Oklahoma went to 2 playoffs when he was the OC. Look at the final scores of those games. They scored points. But what it gets down to is when these guys become head coaches, a lot of times, air raid head coaches have the best offense in the country and the worst defense. Why? Because their practice plans are designed to optimize offensive performance. They don't hit as much, and a lot of them, frankly, don't care because their mentality is, I'm going to score enough points. It doesn't matter what the defense does. Also, heavy 75-80% passing teams have problems controlling the clock, obviously. And that puts a strain on the defense. The defense is out on the field for more plays. And so what you see is air raid concepts being used because the passing plays and all that work fine. It's you have to have it as part of an overall strategy that hides the flaws, it compensates, and is balanced. And that's what we're looking for. So when you see Tom Herman as an OC at Ohio State putting up a shit ton of points or whatever offense, the elite teams with elite offenses tend to have elite defenses, and that's why they win national championships. You know, offense can score a million points, but it really comes down to the fact that their defense does a pretty good job of stopping things, and they know how to play balance, and that's the important thing, is the idea of balance. Air raid teams don't have balance. It's the same reason why I don't think a one-dimensional run offense has won a national championship in 30 years more, because you look back at the last national championship that Nebraska won, Tommy Frazier threw 17 touchdown passes and I think only had 3 interceptions. So they had enough of a passing game to keep defenses honest, and they had a lights out, the black shirts, lights out defense. But you need to have that balance, and a lot of times air raid coaches don't have balance. Phil Longo, like I have said, runs an air raid adjacent offense. He takes air raid passing concepts, marries them with the run game. We all know that. Uses the philosophy of open grass. Okay? And when he was here, we didn't throw the ball 70 times a game. We ran the ball a lot, as always. And we're leaning on what's the best part of our offense. It's just right now our talent's not where it should be. So I'm hoping that the next OC will take what was started, not go backwards, because I want an offense that has a semblance of balance. And what I mean by balance is when Ohio State decides to put 9 in the box to stop Darian Dupree, are we going to have an offense that has the ability to create plays in other ways? It's the same thing that Wisconsin football has dealt with for years, is when the all-star running back can put up all the points despite having the entire defense focus on them, then they can win. But in the cases where Jonathan Taylor gets shut down and can only give you 70 yards, are you going to trust that Alex Hornibrook or Jack Cohn is going to be able to do enough offense to get going? Or is he capable of it? Or is the system capable of it? Back then it wasn't. So that's how it is. So I want balance. I want the ability to score points no matter what the defense wants to do. I don't want the defense to dictate how I respond to them. I want the defense to respond to me. So anyways, that's enough talking. I'm home. Thank you for watching. See you next time.